The wrestling world just witnessed something that nobody saw coming, and the aftershocks are still being felt across every corner of the industry. Dean Ambrose has broken his silence, and what he had to say about Paul Heyman after the Vision's shocking betrayal of Seth Rollins has left everyone stunned. Before we dive into what went down and why this message is sending chills through the locker room, make sure you hit that subscribe button because you're not going to want to miss a single update on this unfolding situation. Seth Rollins thought he had everything under control. He thought his alliance with the Vision was solid and that their partnership would lead them to dominance. But wrestling has a way of teaching brutal lessons to those who get too comfortable, and Rollins just learned that the hard way. The Vision turned on him in a moment that nobody predicted, and the manner in which it happened was calculated and vicious. This wasn't some heat-of-the-moment decision or a spontaneous attack born out of frustration. This was planned and executed with precision, and that's what makes it so disturbing. The betrayal itself was shocking enough, but what happened next took things to another level entirely. Paul Heyman emerged from the shadows with that signature smirk on his face, and it became crystal clear that he had been pulling the strings all along. Heyman has always been a master manipulator and a strategic genius who operates several steps ahead of everyone else. His involvement in the Vision's turn against Rollins revealed layers of deception that had been building for weeks or maybe even months without anyone realizing it. Heyman didn't just orchestrate a betrayal, he orchestrated a complete dismantling of trust and partnership. Seth Rollins was left lying in the ring, confused and hurt by someone he considered an ally. The cameras caught every moment of his realization as the truth sank in. This wasn't just about losing a match or taking a beating. This was about being played and having his judgment called into question. Rollins has been through betrayals before. He knows what it feels like to have the rug pulled out from under him, but this one hit different because of the careful planning that went into it. The Vision didn't just attack him, they destroyed any faith he had in reading people and situations correctly. But while Seth Rollins was dealing with the immediate aftermath of the betrayal, trying to process what just happened and figure out his next move, someone else was watching from a distance. Dean Ambrose saw everything unfold, and his reaction was not what anyone expected. There was no immediate rush to the ring, no dramatic confrontation. Instead, Ambrose took his time, and when he finally decided to speak, the words he chose were deliberate and calculated. His message to Paul Heyman wasn't delivered in the heat of the moment. It was delivered cold, and that's what makes it so chilling. Ambrose's history with both Rollins and Heyman adds layers of complexity to this entire situation. He and Rollins were brothers in arms once upon a time. They fought side by side and had each other's backs through everything. But they also went through their own betrayal years ago when Rollins turned on the Shield and aligned himself with the Authority. That wound eventually healed, and there was mutual respect between them, even if they weren't always on the same page. Ambrose understands betrayal on a personal level because he lived through it, and that experience shaped how he views loyalty and deception. His connection to Paul Heyman is different but equally significant. Heyman has always been the advocate for the biggest and most dangerous superstars in the business. He's the voice behind the beast and the architect of countless schemes. Heyman respects power and intelligence, and Ambrose has both, even if he doesn't always show it in conventional ways. There's an understanding between them that goes beyond the typical adversarial relationship. They recognize each other as dangerous minds who operate on different wavelengths than most people in the industry. So when Ambrose finally addressed what happened, his words carried weight that went beyond simple threats or promises of revenge. He didn't need to yell or make grand pronouncements. Instead, he spoke directly to Heyman with a tone that suggested he understood exactly what the advocate had done and why he had done it. Ambrose acknowledged Heyman's intelligence and his ability to manipulate situations to his advantage. He gave credit where credit was due, but then he delivered the real message, and it was ice cold. Ambrose made it clear that while Heyman might have orchestrated this betrayal perfectly and while the Vision might have executed it flawlessly, there would be consequences that neither of them had fully considered. He wasn't talking about immediate revenge or rushing into a fight. He was talking about something more patient and more dangerous. Ambrose has always been unpredictable, and that unpredictability is what makes him so effective. You never know when he's going to strike or how he's going to do it. That uncertainty is a weapon all its own. The message continued with Ambrose pointing out that Heyman's latest scheme might have worked exactly as planned, but it also created a situation that the advocate couldn't control. By bringing the Vision into this equation and by targeting Rollins in such a public and humiliating way, Heyman had awakened something that he might regret. Ambrose didn't specify exactly what that something was, and that's what made the warning so effective. The threat wasn't explicit. It was implied, and the imagination fills in the blanks with possibilities that are probably worse than reality. What makes this message particularly chilling is the respect that Ambrose showed even while delivering a warning. He wasn't dismissive of Heyman's abilities. He wasn't underestimating what the advocate could do. Instead, he acknowledged that Heyman was a formidable opponent and a brilliant strategist. But brilliance has its limits, and even the best laid plans can fall apart when faced with someone who operates outside the normal rules. Ambrose has built his entire career on being that person who doesn't follow the script and doesn't play by anyone's rules but his own. The wrestling community has been dissecting every word of Ambrose's message, trying to figure out what his next move will be. Some believe he's going to align with Rollins and help him get revenge against the Vision and Heyman. That would make sense on the surface. Two former brothers reuniting against a common enemy is a story that writes itself. But others think Ambrose has something else in mind. Maybe he's not interested in helping Rollins. Maybe he sees this entire situation as an opportunity to pursue his own agenda, whatever that might be. There's also the question of what Heyman thinks about all this. The Advocate has faced threats before from some of the most dangerous competitors in the business. He's been on the receiving end of warnings and promises of retribution countless times. But something about Ambrose's message seems to have gotten under his skin. Reports from backstage suggest that Heyman is taking this seriously, and that's significant because he doesn't take many things seriously. He usually has a countermove planned before his opponent even makes their first move, but this time there's uncertainty in the air. The Vision meanwhile has positioned themselves as the new dominant force aligned with one of the greatest minds in the business. Their betrayal of Rollins was just the beginning of what they have planned. They've made it clear that they're not interested in playing nice or following anyone's expectations. With Heyman guiding them, they believe they're unstoppable. But Ambrose's message introduced doubt into that equation. Even the most confident superstars have to wonder what happens when someone like Ambrose sets his sights on you. Seth Rollins himself has been relatively quiet since the betrayal. He's dealing with the physical aftermath of the attack and the emotional weight of being played. But everyone knows that Rollins isn't the type to stay down for long. He's going to come back, and when he does, he's going to want answers and revenge. The question is whether he'll have Ambrose in his corner or whether Ambrose is going to carve his own path through this mess. The history between them suggests that any alliance would be temporary at best. What's fascinating about this entire situation is how many moving parts there are. You have the Vision establishing themselves as a major threat. You have Paul Heyman pulling strings and playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. You have Seth Rollins trying to recover and figure out who he can trust. And you have Dean Ambrose circling the situation like a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. Any one of these elements would be enough to create compelling drama, but all of them together create something potentially explosive. The message that Ambrose sent wasn't just words. It was a declaration that the game has changed and that whatever Heyman thought he had accomplished is just the beginning of something much bigger. Ambrose has always been at his most dangerous when he's patient and calculated. The unhinged wild man persona that he's known for is only one part of who he is. Underneath that chaos is someone who understands psychology and strategy better than most people give him credit for. He knows how to get inside someone's head and stay there. Paul Heyman has built his entire career on being the smartest person in the room. He's the Advocate who can talk his way out of any situation and manipulate outcomes to his favor. But Ambrose isn't someone you can talk your way around. He doesn't care about promos or verbal exchanges. He cares about actions and consequences. Heyman's usual tools might not work against someone who operates on instinct and unpredictability. That realization is probably what makes Ambrose's message so effective. It's not about what he said. It's about what it implies about what's coming. The timing of this message is also significant. Ambrose didn't rush to make a statement immediately after the betrayal. He waited and let the situation develop. He watched how Heyman celebrated his victory and how the Vision carried themselves afterward. He observed Seth Rollins struggling with the aftermath. By waiting, Ambrose gathered information and understanding before making his move. That patience suggests a level of planning that makes his eventual action even more dangerous. Fans have been speculating about what form Ambrose's response will take. Will it be a direct confrontation with the Vision? Will it be a mind game played on Heyman? Will it involve Seth Rollins in some way? The beauty of Ambrose's message is that it leaves all options open. He didn't commit to any specific course of action, which means everyone involved has to prepare for multiple possibilities. That's a psychological advantage that can't be overstated. The wrestling business has always been about stories and characters and conflicts that capture people's imagination. What's happening right now with Ambrose, Heyman, the Vision, and Rollins has all the elements of a story that people will be talking about for years. The betrayal was shocking. The mastermind being revealed added depth. And now Ambrose's chilling response has introduced an element of danger that makes everything more intense. This isn't just about wins and losses. This is about pride and revenge and proving who's really in control. As this situation continues to develop, everyone is watching to see who makes the next move. Heyman is probably working on his counter-strategy, trying to figure out how to neutralize the threat that Ambrose represents. The Vision is preparing for whatever challenges come their way, knowing that they've made powerful enemies. Seth Rollins is healing and planning his comeback. And Dean Ambrose is somewhere out there waiting for the perfect moment to make his presence felt in a way that nobody will forget. The message has been delivered, and it's one that Paul Heyman won't be able to ignore. Whatever happens next is going to be must-see, because when Dean Ambrose makes a promise or sends a warning, he follows through. The Advocate thought he had everything figured out, but he might have just awakened something that even his brilliant mind can't fully prepare for. The chess match has begun, and the next few moves are going to determine who comes out on top in this dangerous game. Don't forget to subscribe and keep notifications turned on because this story is far from over and you're going to want to stay updated on every twist and turn as it happens. The fallout from this betrayal and the response it triggered is just getting started, and what comes next could change everything for everyone involved.